Hello and welcome to Through the Panel, History in Comics and Graphic Novels. My name is Ben Rollins, and in this episode we're going to look at Maximilian Uriarte's The White Donkey Terminal Lance. Let's get started with some background information and some context. The White Donkey Terminal Lance was written by infantry, marine, and Iraq war veteran Maximilian Uriarte and set during the Iraq War. In 2006, when Max was 19 years old, he enlisted in the Marines and served for 4 years. And during his first deployment in Iraq, he served as an MRAC turret gunner. And then during his second deployment in 2009, he served as a combat photographer and combat artist. In 2010, while he was still on active duty, he created the webcomic Terminal Lance, which has since gained 450,000 plus followers on Facebook and resulted in more than 1 million plus hits on terminallance.com. In 2013, after the success of the Terminal Lance comic, Max decided to start a graphic novel and had a story rolling around in his head. So he started a Kickstarter campaign in 2013 with an initial goal of $20,000. To create this graphic novel. He ended up raising $162,000. And in 2016, in February, he published the graphic novel himself. And later in April, it was picked up by a publisher, Little Brown and Company. Now that we have a little bit of context information about Max and the graphic novel, let's dive right into the story. The title for this graphic novel comes from Uriarte's experience in Iraq. When on a mission, his convoy was stopped by a donkey in the middle of the road. And although he never saw this donkey again during any of his other missions, it left a lasting impression on him. Now, to be clear, The White Donkey Terminal Lance is not a story about the Iraq War or a commentary about the Iraq War. It is a story focused around two characters, Abe and Garcia, with Abe being the central character and Garcia his best friend. It chronicles their journey from training in California and Hawaii to their deployment in Iraq, their leave home, and their redeployment to Iraq, as well as the return home from that deployment. During that time, Abe and Garcia both struggle with the realities of war or the lack thereof in terms of where they're deployed. War is not as exciting. It's not as action-packed as they were led to believe or thought that it was going to be. However, they do face some pretty harsh circumstances, and while I won't spoil the story for you, it is well worth the read. It's a story that focuses around what soldiers deal with during times of war, how they adjust to re-entering society after their deployment is over. We see Abe as a character really struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. He turns to alcohol. He considers suicide as a result of his experience, and he really struggles to identify with many people back home. He also feels that people back home really don't understand him, and they struggle to really understand his experience. A question that he gets asked quite frequently by people who have not experienced the war is, have you killed anyone? Which tends to weigh really heavily on him. Now, the story is centered around Uriarte's experiences during his deployment in Iraq, and it's not autobiographical, but it is based upon his experiences, and it's a very compelling story that if you're interested in this topic, I definitely recommend that you should check out. When talking about graphic novels, the art is just as important as the story. You can even make the argument that the art is more important than the story. It's the element of a graphic novel that connects us to the story that we're being told. It allows us to visually see what is happening in the story. That's no different from this graphic novel. The art in The White Donkey Terminal Lance is drastically different than the art for the webcomic Terminal Lance. In the webcomic, the art is drawn in a more cartoonish manner, whereas the art and the white donkey is drawn in a more realistic manner to capture the serious tone of the story. What's unique about this graphic novel is both the author is the illustrator as well. And while there might not be many vivid colors in a lot of the panels, and a lot of the panels have some very, what can be argued as dull colors, it adds a compelling aspect to this story and really captures the seriousness and the struggle that these characters face. Which is what art should do in a graphic novel. It should help add to the story. It shouldn't take away from the story, which is what Uriarte is very good at in this graphic novel. Have you read The White Donkey Terminal Lance? If so, let me know what you think. And that is it for this episode of Through the Panel. I'll see you next time.